Hey everyone, it is Christina here. Welcome back to the natural path theme that I'm running this week, which is all about stuff that we do in the Natural Path membership. So the Natural Path was designed by me because of a whole bunch of reasons, and one of which was for my family. I wanted to learn how to look after my family's health without actually having to use as much pharmaceutical medication as absolutely possible. So I wanted to know how to deal with a fever without pharmaceuticals. I wanted to know when we needed to deal with those things. I wanted to know how to deal with chickenpox. I wanted to know how to do all of that type of stuff. So I went on this investigation and started to learn those things for myself. And as I learned those things, I recognized that mindset is a really important part of that. And so let me just plug in my mic so that it's less noisy, get less background feedback. So I wanted to learn all of those things in regards to my own family, how to help look after them. Hey Lisa, nice to see you here. So I wanted to learn all of those things, and I went on this investigation of starting to look into the old texts and look at different things like homeopathics, herbal medicine, nutritional medicine, and then of course I fell upon also looking at things like mindset and how much our mindset actually affects our bodies when it comes to all sorts of different things. And if you haven't heard it already, stress is one of those big things that tends to be really challenging. When we're chronically stressed, we actually lower our immune system, which is one of the interesting things that for me, having watched everything that's kind of partaken with COVID and all of that type of stuff, because of course the way that they present the information keeps people in a state of stress, which actually lowers their immune system and makes it more likely that they're going to catch something. So from that mindset point of view, when it comes to the Natural Path membership, one of my goals every month is to bring something to the table when it comes to looking at our mindset, doing an activation, or thinking about things in a slightly different way. And today I want to talk about anger. Anger is one of those emotions that we tend to think of as bad, and we've got these labels when it comes to emotions. We label good emotions, bad emotions. We give them labels about whether they're good or bad or whatever. But actually, emotions are just emotions. They actually aren't good or bad. They are just emotions. They are things that we experience, and the word emotion essentially is energy in motion. It's energy that's designed to come into your body. You experience it, but it's not meant to stay. It's meant to leave. It's meant to come in, be experienced, and then it leaves. Energy in motion. And one of the things that often happens is that because we have this society that has labeled some emotions as good and some emotions as bad, and we've lived in cultures, our family essentially, so our tribe, we've lived in these cultures that have said that some emotions are good and other emotions are banned, or they're only available for some people. So for example, in your household, your father might have been allowed to be angry, but nobody else in the household was allowed to be angry, and everybody else had to kind of manage his anger. Now that's just a very generalistic example. You can apply that to mum was allowed to be angry, but nobody else was allowed to be angry. Or the kids were allowed to be angry, but nobody else was allowed to be angry. There can be all sorts of different rules, and families have different ones. And, often we'll see that there are some common themes when we look down the family lines of some of those emotions that were banned and some of those emotions that were allowed to be expressed by certain people, but not other people. And so that for me is where we do a lot of work into that emotional mindset point of view, and we look at things like the Limitless course, where we really start to dig into those tribal cycles and those family cycles. And so from that perspective, I want us to start thinking about anger. And anger has been an emotion that has had one of those labels attached to it, that anger is bad. If you're feeling angry, there's something wrong with you and it's bad. And you're not allowed to feel anger, and you're only allowed to feel frustration and not anger. There's all sorts of rules around anger. And what we miss is when we think about emotions being negative or positive, is we miss that there's this functional and unfunctional way to experience emotions. So the functional way to experience, any type of emotion is for it to be positive for us to create something with. The unfunctional way is when we might be tearing something down and we might be damaging something else. And what we've seen when it comes to anger is that we generally have seen a lot of people utilize anger in a non-functional way or an unfunctional way. And so we've bundled all anger into this unfunctional process of going, all anger is bad, because when we've seen people experience it, what we've seen them do is hurt other people, destroy things, damage things, etc. And so we don't want to experience anger, because that will make you a bad person and you will do bad things if you're experiencing anger. What we've done when we go down that pathway is we negate the fact that every emotion has a functional way of being experienced versus an unfunctional way of being experienced. And anger is no different. It is no different than feeling happy, sad, frustrated, empathy, all of those types of things. There is a functional way to do it and there's an unfunctional way to do it. Unfortunately, the example or the model that we've most seen is most likely the unfunctional way. So this is why I want to bring it to the table for conversation, so that we can start thinking about it as not being bad, but also thinking about it as, how can I experience this functionally? What could I do to actually allow me to experience anger? Because it is important that we're able to experience the full rainbow range of all of the emotions, and then process them. Because again, energy in motion, that's what emotions are. Energy in motion. And if that energy isn't allowed to move through your body, it becomes stuck and stagnant. And when we think of it from a Chinese medicine point of view, the liver is the powerhouse of anger, in that unresourceful or undealt with anger or unfelt anger is stored in the liver. And of course, we want to actually fix that problem. We want to keep that moving so that we don't create some emotional blocks in our liver, so that we can continue things like detoxification and doing all the beautiful things like blood cleansing that our liver actually does for us. So, functional anger. When we think about the emotion and recognizing that it actually serves a purpose, we can actually look at it from that resourceful space. So again, one of the things that I often see with a lot of my female clients in particular, and actually I'm seeing it more with a lot of males now as well, is that they've been told they're not allowed to be angry because good girls don't get angry. Good girls don't get angry. Good girls don't make a fuss. People pleasers don't get angry. People pleasers don't make a fuss. They keep people pleased. And, you know, telling people that you don't like something might make them feel upset. And so it's all mixed in with a whole bunch of stuff for us, and that's the working out of this experience of actually starting to embrace anger from a functional point of view. Now, when we think about anger from that functional point of view, it comes with design. So anger is designed for activation. It is designed for you to feel the feeling of anger, the frustration that you might be feeling, the upsetness, the injustice, all of those things. It's designed for us to feel that and then process it where we activate it. And that activation can be things like we go and actually connect with somebody and work through our anger. It might be that we use that anger to actually create a movement that's going to help other people. It might be that we use and activate that anger to do something that's really important for us or for other people, and it creates change. And so anger is this powerful emotion that we actually experience. And when we look at it from a functional point of view, where we're activating anger and we're using anger to activate us, helping to make movement, change, implementing something different. So for example, you might be angry that your body is sick all the time, or you've been experiencing this thing. Now you can feel angry and not do anything about it, and then that anger festers, kind of like an open wound. Or you can go, I feel so angry about this. Right, that's it. I'm going to learn how to change this. I'm going to go and investigate stuff. I'm going to go and start stuff. I'm going to go and figure this out. I'm going to go work with a practitioner. I'm going to do whatever it is that I need to do. I'm going to actually use this anger to activate me into movement. So one of my examples of this is I remember with my family, I think, like, I always remember bits and pieces about our family, about what house we were in. And I remember standing in this house that we were in Launceston. And so we had 5 children in that house. And I remember standing there in the kitchen after reading about organic food. And I was like, oh my God, we need organic food. We can't even make ends meet at that point in time. Sometimes we were struggling a bit financially. Sometimes it was, very, very challenging at times at that point in our life. And I was just thinking, there's no way on earth that I could have organic food. I can't even buy regular food all the time. So how could we possibly have organic food? And in that moment, my anger really started to rise up. I was getting very angry that this is unfair. How is this possible? I live in Australia. How is it fair that, we can't food just be food, and like all of that stuff, and just getting really angry with the whole thing. And allowing myself to feel that feeling of what felt like unfairness, what felt like all sorts of other things. And then allowing that anger to move into activation. And this is where I would say my lioness moment. My lioness came through and she said, right, that's it. I've got arms, legs, and a heartbeat. There is dirt in my yard. I'm going to figure out how to grow food so that we can at least have some organic food. And I started by then going and getting some pots, and actually I didn't even get pots. I used our old milk containers. I would collect every milk container that we had, and I would dig some dirt out of the backyard, and then I'd put some seeds in it and I would grow something. So I would grow lots and lots of greens on our balcony. And I'm like, great, that's worked. What else can I do? And then I went out into that backyard and I realized that there was actually raised beds. It'd been so overgrown that you didn't know that there was raised beds there. So I found some of an old pathway that was in our yard that had been grown over. And I found the raised beds, and I would dig out one raised bed at a time, one section of the raised bed at a time, and then I would plant it with something. So I put tomato plants in, I put corn in, I put zucchini in, I put anything that I could get my hands on. If pumpkins came through the kitchen, then I would collect all the seeds from those pumpkins and I would try and grow those. And so I started to build a garden for us and build what I needed, which is that organic food. What I wanted for my family was the organic food. And it was the anger in that moment that was the stir fire that actually created the action that meant, 6 months down the track from that moment of feeling angry, I had corn that we were pulling off of the corn cobs and standing in the garden, eating fresh from our corn that we'd just grown in the garden. Now, that is where anger becomes functional, where it turns into you creating something out of it, where you create change in your life, you create change in the lives around you. And anger serves this really beautiful role in that. If we were never angry, we wouldn't recognize how passionate we can be about some things. And it all flows on. And when we start to think of emotions as they're just emotions, they're just emotions. They can be powerful emotions, but they're just emotions. They're not good or bad. They are emotions. We can experience them and express them in resourceful ways or unresourceful ways. When we recognize that anger is just an emotion, it's a powerful emotion, and we can experience it or express it in resourceful or unresourceful ways, we can then start to take away that shame and the guilt and all of the other, I want to say bullshit, crap that we experience when we feel these emotions, because it's through not feeling our emotions that we also then create physical unwellness in our body or dis-ease in our body, because there is some dis-ease in our body from that emotional space as well. And so from a mindset point of view, I would love you to start embracing this idea of resourceful and unresourceful expressions of emotions. So we can be resourceful or we can be unresourceful, and every emotion has a resourceful and an unresourceful way of expressing it. And so start looking at anger from this different point of view of recognizing that it's not a bad emotion. Actually, some of the most amazing things that we've ever seen in our planet have been created out of somebody experiencing anger. They've experienced the anger and they've designed it or they've used that as the catalyst for activation, for movement, for them to create something good out of it. And that's what we want to do when we're looking at anger. Instead of shutting down anger, saying we're not allowed to experience it, we're not allowed to express it, instead remembering it's designed for a purpose. If we embrace that purpose, it becomes powerful and actually creates movement in our lives that then help us to create the things that we actually want to have and the experiences that we actually want to have as well. So that's my activation for today. If you are in the membership, we do one of these types of talks every month. And every month we talk about a different thing from a mindset point of view as well. So the way that the Natural Path Life membership works is that we do a masterclass on a Monday, then the next Monday we do a herbal or a nutritional spotlight, then the next one we do a Monday mindset activation, and then the last Monday of the month generally is a live Zoom question and answers where you can jump on with me in a Zoom call. You just ask anything that you want to ask. You can talk about your kids, you can talk about your family, you can talk about general things. Last week we talked about what goes into a natural first aid kit. And so we get to talk about anything that we want. And I'm going to give you guys this opportunity to jump on one of those calls with me tomorrow. So if you haven't already jumped into the events section of my Facebook page, jump into the events section and you'll see that there is a live Zoom question and answers. And you just simply register. So click on the link so that you register and you make sure you get all the details for that call. And then you get to come and join me tomorrow night for a conversation where you can ask anything you want to. I'm a real person. I'm just going to answer your questions as best as I possibly can, knowing that I'm a walking encyclopedia when it comes to natural health and food and herbs. So utilize that resource. Nothing's off limits. Ask whatever it is that you want to ask, and I'll happily join you in that conversation to answer them. And from my perspective, health is always been about creating a holistic version of you, not the parts of you. Not, I'm really great with my diet, but my mindset sucks. It's all of you gets to be healthy and well. And that's the whole idea, is that as a being, you are looking at whole being business or whole being health and wealth. And that's the goal, is filling up all of your nutritional needs from the emotional, the spiritual, and the physical. So you can ask any questions on any of those topics in that room tomorrow night. So again, if you haven't seen it yet, jump into the events section of my page. If you don't know where that is, click on my name. It will take you to my page. Click on the events and then make sure that you click on the registering link to come and join that Zoom call tomorrow night. I would love to see you there, and I'm happy to answer anything that comes up. All right, goodbye for now, and I will see you soon. I hope you have the most amazing day ever. See you later. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Bye for now.